Decatur Arts Podcast, brought to you by the Decatur Area Arts Council.
Hi, this is Jay, and this is the video version of the Decatur Arts Podcast, which you can find the audio version of on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Just search for Decatur Arts and look for the big, colorful D-A. Got a good show for you today. We recently reopened the Madden Arts Center's Ann Lloyd Gallery. We've got a great new exhibit called Decatur, Memories of Our Hometown. And here to talk about it is the Decatur Area Arts Council's Gallery Director, Jami Fawley.
Hello.
I suppose we should briefly hit on sort of where we're at in terms of the gallery. Obviously, everything came to a grounding halt. And we talked about this a little bit in our staff Zoom meeting, but you had plans. You had things that were supposed to be here, and they're not. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a show scheduled. Well, first of all, we were in the middle of a show in March.
That's right.
We had artwork up, and we had guests coming in, and all of a sudden, everything went dark. So, and then we had to come in, of course, and take that artwork down, and would have been setting up for our April show, which was scheduled to be a modern ceramics exhibit where we had, I forget now how many, 7 different artists, I think, from around different states, all around Illinois.
And some really neat stuff. You were sharing a lot of that with me, and oh man, there was some neat stuff.
Yeah. So, of course, we didn't want to compromise safety, and everything was shut down. So we hope to do that in the future. But so we had to cancel that show, and then the Barn Colony show was scheduled for May. Now, the Barn Colony show is the one where we feature the art from lots of local artists. So it's a local favorite. We get a big crowd every year for that show, and unfortunately, that one also was canceled. So we would normally have been doing our international arts event in the summertime here at the Arts Council.
Which is big. It's huge. There's not just the gallery. There's a whole lot of additional moving parts
Absolutely.
that we try to incorporate into.
Absolutely. And that one relies heavily on food and performing arts. So obviously those are things that are just not safe to do. And so rather than trying to present it in a smaller way or in a different way, we decided to just postpone that show until next summer. And so we pulled together really quickly with the community, started reaching out to a lot of local collectors, people who've grown up here like myself, and just started a lot of conversations about what do you love about Decatur? What are your favorite memories of Decatur? What do you have? And so we decided to go with a Memories of Our Hometown exhibit, which is just a nostalgic look back at Decatur and, you know, what it was like to live here a few years ago. Not back to the days of the founding fathers and all that. Right.
It's not a history exhibit.
No.
It's art, it's memorabilia. It's a visual snapshot of this town.
Yeah.
And it's really, for the time that you had to put this together, it's pretty incredible and again, in working with this community and working with those who had collected this art and memorabilia, it's pretty amazing what you managed to put together for this exhibit. It's really something.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we could not have done this without the support of the community. We had Staley Mueller Museum jumped on board right away, and they were excited to loan us some of their items from their museums, as well as, you know, kind of just talk us through some of the history and things that, you know, because you can't be an expert on everything. So I didn't know some of these things, even though I grew up here.
And you were kind enough to jump on here with me right now, basically to share some of those stories that you've heard, and that you know, in talking with these people, you've absorbed some stuff from And I mean, the collection is varied. I mean, we've got sports memorabilia. We've got some of the old restaurants like Tom's and Schwartz, and
Right.
there are certain collectible things that were manufactured here in town, like the kites. And the kites are kind of a fun place to start. Tell me about the high flyers.
Well, the High Flyer Kite Factory was located here in downtown Decatur, just south of El Dorado Street. And it was before my recollection. I don't remember the factory, but a lot of people from Decatur have great memories of going to the kite factory and getting these little kites, these little paper kites. I think they were, they were inexpensive and they were for kids. And so then they became kind of a beloved symbol, and they're now quite collectible and difficult to get because they're no longer in production.
Well, and speaking of production, we don't just have kites on display. You actually have a piece of the production.
Right. We actually have 3 pieces.
That's right.
Yeah. We have a metal piece that is a printing plate that was actually used to produce a kite. And then High Flyer also did their own advertising, and they actually rented their printing press out to some other local businesses. So there are printing blocks, wood blocks with linoleum cut printmaking stuff.
That's the technical term for it.
Yeah,
I think. Let's go grab that printmaking stuff. We've got printing to do.
It's a print block. Anyway, so we actually have 2 of those wooden blocks here in the exhibit that are on loan to us from the Macon County History Museum, and a metal plate that's on loan from a private collector here in Decatur. And those were used in actual production. So we always try to take the art angle here, and anything we look at, what are these sculptural qualities or color line, all the things that arty people do. And so we were really excited to find that. That's a whole art in itself. And these kites were known for their beautiful designs, the artwork on them. And that's part of what made them collectible.
Yeah, it's that printing plate that I was thinking of when I said, we've got that one piece, but yeah, we do have the other pieces there. And the kites themselves, as you say, they are so fun. You and I have kind of talked about the one that I gravitate towards. It's got like a manta ray on it, and divers and a shark, and it's
fun.
It is. It really is. Just to the left of our kites, we have a display that highlights Elam's. And Elam's, of course, is a big, big part of Decatur history. And there's a big part to the display that I don't think a lot of people have seen.
Well, yeah, Elam's is a beloved piece of history. I myself remember going there as a child.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we actually have one of the ordering stations from the drive-through, the actual ordering station here in the gallery, as well as an artist's painting of Elam's and a photograph. But the scale model, I think, is what you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a full scale model of Elam's, as well as a collection of the white mugs and the orange printed mugs. So we have the original mugs. And the model was made by a local artist here in Decatur and is owned by a local collector. And it actually lights up. And it has a little interior. You can look through the windows and see the counter and the whole thing. So it's really awesome.
Now, that's not the only model that we have on display for this thing.
That's right. We have 3 full-scale models here in the gallery for this show. So we have the Elam's drive-through, as we mentioned, and then we also have a scale model of the transfer house, my personal favorite. And right now we have some Christmas lights inside of it just to light it up. But that is on loan from the Macon County History Museum. And then on loan from the Staley Museum, we have the Staley Pump House model, which was created by local artist Lucy Brownlee and her daughter Whitney.
And this sucker is pretty massive. It's the pump house in its heyday. So it is presented with people out,
Yes.
sitting at tables and walking about. And I mean, it's a
Right.
really fun little piece of art, but also kind of getting to that the Save the Pump House. We have something on the wall for
We
the Save the
do.
Pump House as well because of the art component. But this model, I think, speaks to, even though it was years and years and years where nothing was happening with the pump house, I think
Yeah.
this is the vision that people had in their hearts when they
Yes.
were saying, save the pump house.
Yeah,
So
it
it's kind of neat.
absolutely. Yeah, it had a grand history, and many people held their wedding receptions and
Mm-hmm.
Christmas parties, and I think people have fond memories of the pump house, and which is why the Save the Pump House campaign was created. And because of that recent history, we wanted to kind of mention both sides of it.
Yeah,
But the model, everybody who comes in and looks at the model kind of gets down, because it's so detailed.
it
And there's
really
there's even
is.
little rocks and water, and I mean the whole thing, it's really a treasure, and we're so grateful that we were able to borrow it for this event because it really adds to the show.
So what's something else that you feel is a real standout piece or a real standout section that is in the gallery?
Well, let's get back to the transfer house model because
Mm-hmm.
that is one of my favorites. That entire section is dedicated to Central Park and the transfer house. And I just felt like that was the real symbol. It's the symbol of
Sure.
Decatur. And so we created an entire wall of images of Central Park and the different Central Park fountains that we've had throughout the years. And I personally just really enjoyed going through the history and looking at the different fountains and the different scenes of how Decatur has changed over the years. Not in a sad way. I'm not sad that those things have changed, but that's life. And so
Mm-hmm.
really in a way to celebrate it more and all the changes that we've made, and the new fountain is beautiful, but the old fountains were also lovely in their time. And so I loved that whole thing.
Well, and it speaks, in office, we talk about this all the time, the art in the everyday, and
Yeah.
how people sometimes forget, that fountain, there was someone sitting at a draftsman's table, sketching that out initially, and all the different things that go into the sculpting, the manufacturing, it's all art. And
Absolutely. And in fact, on the west side of the Central Park scale model, we have the drawing from the architect who was designing the current fountain. At the time, it was just a sketch. And so we were able to obtain that original sketch from a firm here in town and posted that up just to kind of, again, bring it back to that art angle. That art is in everything. And we kind of take that angle when we look at things. So we have that drawing here in the gallery as well.
yeah, some of the stuff that we have in the gallery is just fun. We've got a wall of school jackets,
Yes.
and that's really awesome. But there is a centerpiece to that wall
Yeah.
that I think is very exciting.
It is. I think so as well. That centerpiece was the original Spartan from Lakeview High School, and it was originally embedded in the linoleum floor in the foyer. So when Lakeview was torn down, that piece was framed and given to a local man, Joe Doolin, and he is kind of the caretaker of the Spartan now, who's he's a famous figure in Decatur, the Spartan, and he travels to different reunion groups for Lakeview High School. And just so happened that there weren't any scheduled during the time that our show is going on. So we were able to
I wonder
borrow the
why.
Spartan.
Hmm.
But yeah, we're very lucky to have him. And so people can come and visit the Spartan, as well as we have a Lakeview high school football jacket and a high school cheerleader or cheerleading uniform.
Yeah, we don't have a cheerleader just out in the gallery greeting.
Right.
But yeah, so that's another kind of neat thing. We're talking Letterman's jackets. Let's stay on the sports side of things. There's a really nice display of sports memorabilia.
Yes.
And I know that this isn't your wheelhouse, but tell me a little bit about that section of the gallery.
Yeah, we were really fortunate. I was able to connect with a collector of Commodore memorabilia here in the area. And he was extremely patient with the fact that I'm not really a sporty person. So he filled me in on a lot of the history of the Commodores and how important that was to Decatur at that time, as well as he was willing to loan us quite a few nice pieces. So our gallery has everything from a schedule that would have hung in like Tolly's grocery store, so that you would go when you got your groceries and they had like a bulletin board that would tell what the schedule was that would have been hanging there. And we have one of those framed in the gallery. We also have a no betting contract, which is signed by each of the players, as well as photographs of fans field and some of the managers, some of the players. I have 5 different baseballs that are signed by Commodores, an original bat and jersey. And, you know, we chose some of the more interesting programs and scorecards that had some interesting art on them to put on display. And again, printing plates, I'm obviously can tell I'm interested in that whole process. We were able to obtain through this collector some of the printing plates that they used in the Herald and Review to print the players' team photos.
Those I think are a standout of that because
Yeah.
they are so unique. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
people know what the finished product looks like, but to see
Right.
what's behind that, that's really, really neat.
Right. Yes. And then in that area as well, we have the nod to the Crane Potato Chip Factory, which a lot of people grew up with. And you would save the buttons from your bag of potato chips until you filled your card and then turn that in for a baseball. So we have 2 of the original baseballs with their original packaging, as well as some cards and some information about Crane Potato Chip. And then the last thing in that section is we have a cutout, a life-size cutout of George Halas, and an image of the mural of the Staley Bears that is here in downtown Decatur, as well as the street sign.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the whole exhibit, everywhere you turn, there's something that you're going to see that makes you go, wow. I'm thinking of the oil barrel from Staley and even just things that you might not have thought about, maybe the Park Singers in a while, or
and what a big part they were of Decatur history.
Right.
But until someone mentions it, all those old nostalgic feelings, you know, then they start to bubble up and you remember sitting in the audience and hearing them sing the national anthem. And it's like, you know, all those childhood memories come back.
Yeah. And everywhere you turn, the gallery's full of them. We are actually going to be putting together a virtual tour of the gallery.
Right.
That we're going to present online. So that way, if you're still not comfortable getting out, we still want you to be able to experience this. So that's something you and I will be working on soon. But
yeah,
I think the big encouragement here is to make your way down to the gallery to see it, because it really is something to behold in the space and being right there in front of it.
I agree. Yeah, come on down. And I really love that our gallery is kind of a quiet place away from, you know, all the stress, shall we say, right now. But, you know, bring your mask, come on down. You're not going to have to worry about a big crowd or navigating through that. So you can come and just take your time, go through and share some memories with us. I think that's been the most fun part of this. I didn't need to write, you know, paragraphs about each thing, because it's the people that come through and share their memories that really fill this exhibit with life.
It's almost breathtaking in how awesome this exhibit turned out. And clearly, as you say, the people who come in, they're seeing that as well and are really being taken with this. And it's a whole lot of fun. And
yeah, well, thank you. And we could not have done it without the support of the community. I just can't say that enough. There were some people who really everybody we talked to, and businesses. Some businesses were closed and we couldn't get a hold of them. So we just kept rolling, and we could not have done it. So many people jumped in and said, yeah, we'll help. What can we do? What do we have that you'd like to borrow? And they're, Dell's Popcorn, private collectors. They're just a lot of people made this happen.
Well, and tell me, how many times did this happen to you? Somebody would drop something off, and then you would get a call or even physically them coming back saying, hey, I've got something else.
Well, yeah, because one memory sparks another memory. So absolutely. Yes. And then I also had the experience of talking to one person, and then someone else would find out we were talking, and then they wanted in on it because it sounded like fun. And
right.
So it was like,
well, and again, the people who come in and see the exhibit, we had someone just the other day who's like, I've got a this or that,
right.
that you could put into this. And
right. Absolutely.
We keep joking. We could probably do this yearly. And I'm not saying that we're considering doing it yearly.
No, but yeah, it would be different every time because I keep getting new angles and, things that we hadn't thought of or and there was a lot of places that just weren't open and we weren't able to access. So absolutely, we could do it over and over, I'm sure.
It's a super fun exhibit. What are the gallery hours currently?
We are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 to 2. Masks are required in the gallery. And we do ask that if you're in there with someone who you don't know, just to keep up social distancing guidelines. But other than that, it's free, open to the public. We really appreciate donations. If you're able to do that, we have a cash box at the door. But, come on in. We're open to everyone. So we'd love to see you. We'd love to hear your stories.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jami.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Decatur Arts Podcast, brought to you by the Decatur Area Arts Council. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.
If you enjoyed this presentation, consider making a donation to the Arts Council at decaturarts.org.